For the 6th season in a row, Walters is the official bar of the Nats Chat podcast, located across the street from the ballpark, just off South Capitol Street.
Hi, Ryan Reynolds here for Mint Mobile. Are you looking for a beach read this summer? May I suggest your big wireless bill? It's got suspense, mystery, a slightly flat, emotional arc, and a shocking twist where you realize you've been overpaying the entire time. Fortunately, though, Mint's story is better. Every plan, $15 a month, even unlimited. That's it. Happy ending. Zero tears. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan required. $15 per month equivalent. Taxes and fees extra. Initial plan term only. Greater than 50 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. See terms.
Some days you want a little extra oomph to your usual look. Whether that's lashes for days with the viral Liquid Lash Extensions mascara, or awakening your eyes with a lasting lift and soft color with the Brilliant Eye Brightener. Thrive Causemetics is your go-to when you want to amplify your everyday look. Whether you want a simple, just got to get out of the door routine, or full glam, you'll always look and feel like the best version of yourself with Thrive Causemetics. Plus, every product is 100% vegan, cruelty-free, and made with clean, skin-loving ingredients that work with your skin, not against it. And for every product purchased, Thrive Causemetics donates to help communities thrive. So every time you use your favorite Thrive Causemetics product, you're helping communities you care about, too. Amplify your everyday. Go to thrivecosmetics.com/shine26 for an exclusive offer of 20% off your first order. That's Thrive Cosmetics, CAUSEMETICS.com/shine26.
Now the 2-2. Swing a long drive, left center field, way back it goes, and that one is long gone. Onto the roof of the Nationals clubhouse in left center field. A towering Chaparro home run makes it 6-2 Nationals. An absolute no-doubter. Now the 1-0. Chaparro swings and he clocked one deep to left on the line. That is out of here. A scorching line drive home to the left from Chaparro. A 3-run shot. 18-2. Nats are leading. And Andres Chaparro has driven in 8 runs all by his lonesome. The 2-0 launched in the air, dead center. Back goes Bolte to the warning track. He leaps at the wall, and he cannot get it. It is gone for a 3-run homer. So that'll make it 23-2, as Daylen Lile isn't sure, but now he knows that Bolte didn't catch it. That's home run number 11, a 3-run shot. And the Nationals now lead by 3 touchdowns.
And welcome to Nats Chat. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. I'm joined by Washington Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman of NatsJournal.com. So the Nats ended their pre-All-Star break portion of the season with 6 losses in 8 games. The Nats have begun their post-All-Star break portion of the season with a spectacular offensive performance in a dominant win. If you stayed up for this game, boy, were you rewarded. A 23-4 win at the Athletics at Sutter Health Park in West Sacramento, California. Late night on Friday night in Game 1 of a 3-game series and Game 1 of a 6-game trip out west. Yes, the final score was Nats 23, Athletics 4. The Nats in this game, 23 runs, 21 hits, which were 4 home runs, 6 doubles, and 11 singles, 6 walks, a scorching 13 for 17 with runners in scoring position. The Nats struck out 13 times, but you know what? Nobody cares about strikeouts when you score 23 runs. The Nats scored at least 3 runs in 5 different innings. The Nats' elite offense struck again. They in MLB's 2026 regular season now are back at 500, 49 and 49 with a run differential of plus 26. The A's now have lost 10 consecutive games and are 41 and 56 with an MLB worst run differential of minus 125. Good to have you with us. You can always reach us via X at Nats_chat. You can reach us via Blue Sky at Nats Chat Podcast. You can email us natschatpodcast@gmail.com. And we have a website that we invite you to check out, natschatpodcast.com, at which you can buy a Nats Chat podcast t-shirt. I don't know if this was my favorite part of the game, Mark, but boy, was this maybe the most telling part of the game. Jorbit Bibas, a Nats position player, closed out the game for the Nats, and he did so because the Nats were so far ahead that you didn't really worry about the bullpen in a game like this, and you could afford to have some fun with a position player in Bibas pitching to close things out. You didn't have to worry about the Nats blowing a lead in this one. A truly special performance by this Nats offense late night on Friday night.
I don't know if I ever remember them using a position player in a win, like that. And perfectly acceptable under the circumstances. I'm sure Blake Buterra would have loved to get Riley Cornelio to close the game out with 3 innings, but his pitch count was getting up. No need to burn him any further. And this is game 1 of a 6-game road trip in Sacramento and Colorado in 2 hitter-friendly ballparks where you just have a hunch that these relievers are going to be asked to do a lot. So if you have a chance to use a position player at the end and save the rest of your bullpen arms, by all means do it. That was fine. And look, I think we discussed coming into the All-Star break that this first week coming out of it, on the road, Sacramento and Denver, this was a really important week for the Nationals to reestablish themselves after that sweep against the Yankees and make sure that they get themselves back over 500, back in a wild card race, so that the trade deadline discussion is not just a guaranteed sell. Now, long way to go. We'll see how everything plays out from here. But boy, you want to make a statement in game 1 coming out of the break. This was as good a statement as you could make. That was really impressive.
Well, and we know that in sports, you should never assume anything, but you look at these first 6 games out of the break for the Nats. 3 games at the Athletics, who are terrible. 3 games at the Rockies, who are terrible. 2 hitter-friendly parks in Sutter Health Park here in West Sacramento. And then, of course, Coors Field in Denver. There's a real opportunity for the Nats to score a bunch of runs and have, say, a 4-2, 5-1 trip out west. Now, again, you don't assume that, but this is tailor-made for a team coming off a rough 3-game sweep against the New York Yankees at Nationals Park to close out the pre-All-Star break portion of the season, to come out feeling good about themselves. And boy, did the Nats get off to such a good start in this game. It's remarkable because, you're watching this game and you knew that the potential for the Nats to have a monstrous offensive performance was there. And then it starts, and it doesn't stop. And this was unrelenting, the way the Nats were in this game. 3 runs in the top of the 3rd, a run in the top of the 4th, 4 runs in the top of the 5th, 6 runs in the top of the 6th, 4 runs in the top of the 7th, and 5 runs in the top of the 9th. I can't state this enough. It did not stop what the Nats were doing offensively. And as the game is going, you're saying to yourself, all right, they're at 10 runs. All right, that's probably going to be it. Oh, they're at 13 runs. All right, that's probably going to be it. They're at 14 runs. They're at 18 runs. They're at 23 runs. I mean, that 9th inning should have been a nothing happening top of the 9th. Instead, the Nats scored 5 more runs to get to 23. Unreal.
And I wonder if deep down they were thinking to themselves, do not let up. There is no reason to toy with this at all. Don't give the A's any reason to think that they can come back against that bullpen. I would not be surprised, maybe not by the 9th inning, but as the game's being played out, I would not be surprised if the message in the dugout was keep it going. Don't let up. No mercy in this game. They scored 23 runs, Al, in spite of the fact that they didn't score in the first 2 innings. They actually looked not great against Gage Jump, the A's starter. Now, the one thing they did, and maybe it paid off later on, they made him work. He threw a ton of pitches, and that allowed them to knock him out by the 4th inning. Yeah, they were already starting to score some runs, but even if they hadn't, they were going to get to that A's bullpen pretty early on, and you saw what the results were from that. So it seems silly to highlight the quality at bats early in the game when it was still low scoring and close, but there were a bunch of really good quality at bats that set things in motion and then led to the explosion when they're facing, far inferior pitchers out of the bullpen the rest of the way.
And what's also remarkable about this game is that the Nats' 2 best batters, James Wood and C.J. Abrams, didn't necessarily have terrible games. Wood did strike out 4 times, but neither guy was close to the most impressive Nats batter in this game. This game, in so many ways, was about people other than James Wood and C.J. Abrams, like Andres Chaparro, who had 8 RBI. Yes, Andres Chaparro had 8 runs batted in. He was the Nats starting first baseman and number 3 batter, 4 for 5 with a 3-run homer, a 2-run homer, a 2-run single, an RBI single, and a walk. Chaparro had the game of his life late night on Friday night. He and the Nats' 4-run fifth had a 1-out, 2-run homer to left center field for a 6-2 Nats lead. Despite having been down at 1.02, the homer went a projected 467 feet per StatCast. Again, this is not your normal batter's environment. Sutter Health Park in West Sacramento, California. And then Chaparro in the Nats' 4-run seventh, a 3-run homer to left field for an 18-2 Nats lead. That homer going a projected 406 feet per StatCast. And I loved what you were posting on X as this was happening. What Chaparro was doing from an RBI standpoint in relation to what he had done so far this season. Pretty crazy.
He entered the night with 7 RBIs for the season. He more than doubled that in this game. All of you out there, when you saw the lineup come out and you saw Andres Chaparro batting third yet again in the first game out of the All-Star break, how many of you were excited when you saw that? No. If you said yes, you're a liar. There's no way you were excited to see that given his struggles in the first half of the year. They have stuck with him, though. They believe he is their best option against left-handed starters. The funny thing is, I fully expected him to get 2 at-bats in this game against Gage Jump. And then as soon as the A's went to their bullpen and went to a right-hander, I thought we'd see Luis Garcia. No, Garcia never was even needed in the game because they were so far ahead. They just let Chaparro keep hitting. And by the way, he was hitting homers off right-handers by the end of the night. A truly remarkable offensive performance from him, tied for the 3rd most RBI in a single game in team history. Only Anthony Rendon and, yes, Mark Reynolds, the 2 who have ever driven in 10 runs in a game for the Nationals. Chaparro now joins Josh Willingham, who, of course, hit 2 grand slams to get to his 8 RBI, and Trey Turner, who did it as well. That's your top 5 RBI performances in Nationals history. And here you go, Al, the stat of the night, maybe the stat of the year. I had to look this one up. It just amazed me. This is true. 8 RBIs from Andres Chaparro. Babe Ruth, Hank Aaron, Barry Bonds, none of them ever drove in 8 runs in a major league game. Andres Chaparro has done it. How about that?
Well, I tell you what, no one can ever take that away from Andres Chaparro. And I will say this, Chaparro is built like a tank. You know, we've talked about his lack of offensive success. When you look at the guy, he does look like someone who should produce offensively. I mean, he's built like a fullback. So, that he has this kind of power doesn't shock us. But man, what a game by Chaparro. I don't know if this goes down as the Andres Chaparro game, the way that the 10 RBI game for Anthony Rendon in a lot of ways has gone down as the Anthony Rendon game, just because so many other people did so many other good things in this game. But clearly what Chaparro did led the way.
If your business runs on 5 different apps, 12 browser tabs, and 1 spreadsheet that everyone's afraid to touch, it's probably time for Odoo. Odoo is an all-in-one business management software that connects every part of your business into one powerful, easy-to-use platform. So instead of wasting time switching between disconnected systems, your entire business works together in real time. Your team moves faster, your data stays accurate, and you can actually focus on growing your business. Let one unified system run your entire business. From the first opportunity to the final payment, everything works together in one place. Whether you're a small business or managing a large operation, Odoo gives you one flexible platform built to grow with you. Learn more at odoo.com. That's ODOO.com.
From lashes for days with the viral Liquid Lash Extensions mascara to awakening your eyes with lift and color from the Brilliant Eye Brightener, Thrive Cosmetics is the go-to when you want to amplify your everyday look. Plus, every product is 100% vegan, cruelty-free, and made with clean, skin-loving ingredients that work with your skin. And for every product purchased, Thrive Causemetics donates to help communities thrive. So every time you use your favorite Thrive Causemetics product, you're helping communities you care about too. Amplify your everyday. Go to thrivecausemetics.com/shine26 for an exclusive offer of 20% off your first order. That's Thrive Causemetics, CAUSEMETICS.com/shine26.
So an RBI opportunity for Ford. The 2-0 from Sterner is launched in the air, left center field deep. Back it goes. Bolte on the run to the wall, and it's gone! Harry Ford's first big league home run is his first Nationals hit, and the Nationals lead at 8-2. In his Nats debut and his third plate appearance, Harry Ford sends one over the left center field wall, and that is his first major league home run. He enjoys that trip around the bases. He gets the high fives going down the dugout steps. Welcome to the Nationals, Harry Ford.
Now, if not for what Chaparro did, the lead offensive performer for this game in terms of our conversation would be Harry Ford. Harry Ford now is at the major league level. You know, it's been a funny deal these last few days. We've been in the midst of the All-Star break. There actually has been a good bit of Nats news in recent days. Basically, every day with the exception of Monday during the break, you had significant Nats news, including what went down from a catching standpoint. So Harry Ford as the Nats starting catcher and number 6 batter, 2 for 5 with a 2-run homer, an RBI single, and a walk. Not bad for his first game for the Nats at the major league level. Ford in the Nats 4-run fifth, a 2-out, 2-run homer to left center field for an 8-2 Nats lead. So there's what Ford did in this game, and there's, of course, the fact that Ford now is at the major league level. The Nats on Friday afternoon officially announced having recalled Ford from AAA Rochester, and the reason that Ford has been recalled is that at last, the Nats have put a position player on an injured list this season. We've talked about the insanely good injury luck the Nats have had from a position player standpoint this season. The Nats on Wednesday morning announced having put catcher Drew Millas on the 10-day injured list, retroactive to July 12th due to a left index finger fracture. First time this season that the Nats have put a position player on an injured list, and it ends up being Ford and not Riley Adams who gets called up. Even though Adams isn't like having some terrible season for Rochester, Ford had been struggling for Rochester, but in recent weeks, much better. Now he's at the major league level. So what do you make of that? How much playing time do you think we'll be seeing for Harry Ford at the major league level?
Yeah, this was really a fascinating development in so many ways. And if not for the way this game went and what Chaparro did, I feel like this would be maybe our number one topic coming out of the All-Star break. I do think this is significant. So a few things to point out here. Number one, Drew Millas, you may remember last August, fractured his left index finger. It was at Yankee Stadium. He was hit by a bat, and he missed the rest of the season from it. And while to the outsider it appeared that was no longer an issue, it does seem like this thing was still really bothering him and never fully healed as they would have hoped, and things had gotten worse. Now, I'm not going to say that explains all of his struggles this year, but it does make you wonder to what extent that he was not 100% and trying to play through it. And it finally got to a point they decided we can't continue with this. And so he actually had surgery, according to Blake Butera, to work on this. Now, I don't know what that means timeline-wise, but I'm going to guess this is not just a 10-day injured list situation. This could be a while, in which case there is a golden opportunity here for Harry Ford now to really establish himself at the big league level for the first time. Now, we know he was the highly touted catcher in the Jose Ferrer trade with Seattle. At the time of the trade and really throughout spring training, we're saying this guy is their number one catcher of the future. If not on opening day, at some point, he's going to be the guy. Well, what had happened since then? Keibert Ruiz took off and resurrected himself over the course of the first half, and Harry Ford got off to a really difficult start at AAA. However, if you look month to month, Ford's numbers kept getting better to the point that he had over 1,000 OPS in July so far before this call-up. He has a really good eye at the plate, draws a lot of walks, hadn't hit for a whole lot of power, although we saw the power from him in this game. He's on the 40-man roster. Riley Adams is not. Remember, he was dropped from the 40-man roster over the winter. They weren't going to open up a spot for him. They decided Ford is playing well. Let's get him up here. And now let's see how this goes. My hunch was that we would probably see Ruiz about as much as he was playing before. And this kind of got lost in the shuffle. Remember, they started the year, Ruiz and Millas essentially every other day, 50-50. Over the last month or so, maybe even more than that, Ruiz really has been starting almost 2 out of every 3 games for them. That's a product of his performance and Millas' struggles. So now you have Ford. Obviously, he got the start in this first game against a lefty. I don't think he takes over as the number 1 guy, obviously, but I would imagine he's going to get this opportunity here to see what he can do. And maybe it is a 50-50 split. And if they're both producing, fantastic. We'll see. This is one game. You don't want to get too excited by it, but he did show just what he is capable of doing. He can draw walks. He works a good at bat, and he does have some pop. I know he hadn't really done it a lot in the minors, but remember in the World Baseball Classic, he hit some home runs for Great Britain. So a lot to be excited about there. Just one game. Let's see where it goes from here. But we may finally be getting to see what a Keibert Ruiz, Harry Ford catching tandem looks like, not just for a week or two, but for a longer stretch.
Well, and you would think, assuming that the Nats still are high on Harry Ford, that they wouldn't have brought him up if the idea was for him to barely play, or the idea was for him to play only, 20-25% of the time, with Keibert Ruiz getting the overwhelming number of starts at catcher. Like, if you're going to bring up Ford, then in theory, this is going to go back to the way things were early in the season when you had a near 50-50 split with Ruiz and Millas. And it is exciting to think about what this could be. And it's crazy, right? Because we thought when they got Harry Ford that this was kind of it for Keibert Ruiz as the number 1 catcher. Ruiz has had the season that he has had. And so now you alter the thinking and you say, okay, maybe the Nats can have a situation where you have like a dynamic catching duo. Like maybe you have Ruiz and Ford as 2 good hitting catchers, each of whom you can rely on. And, maybe it gets to the point where both guys are going so well that you DH the other guy on the days on which he doesn't catch. I mean, I look at like the Orioles, right? And the Orioles have a lot of problems this season. But one thing they do have that's really good is this really good catching duo of Adley Rutschman and Samuel Basallo. And there has been ample playing time for both guys because you DH one guy when the other guy isn't catching. The O's have gotten good offensive production out of each guy. Would be awesome to see the Nats have that here with Keibert Ruiz and Harry Ford. Obviously, we'll see what ends up going down, but this was exciting to happen. And, it's funny how things can change because just a few weeks ago, the notion of Harry Ford being called up, that was not a topic at all with the season that he was having. So to see him having gotten on track like this and now maybe being someone who can give the Nats even more offensive firepower down the stretch, just sensational to see. I did want to ask you this, and I asked this, I'm not trying to be funny when I ask this, I'm serious about this, but so the Nats put Millas on the injured list on Wednesday morning, didn't announce calling up Ford until Friday afternoon. Do you think the Nats did that to get the 2 extra days of service time for Ford? Do you think that that's why the Nats do that they wait 2 days to actually execute the Ford call-up in order to get 2 more days of control over him?
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think they would be alone in doing that. If you have that opportunity because of the All-Star break, or even if it was just on like an off day in the middle of the season, you do sometimes hear a team sending somebody down to the minors after a game and then not calling up their replacement until the next actual game day, which might be a couple days later. In this case, obviously, because of the All-Star break, it's even further. So yes, I do think there was a purpose to that. Obviously, they knew they were calling him up. Obviously, he knew he was getting called up, but there's no reason to actually put him on the roster during the All-Star break because there are no games to be played. They don't need to be giving him service time. And if you really want to get cynical, don't need to be paying him big league money for any extra days either. So yes, I think that was 100% what they were doing there. And I don't think this is the Nationals being unusual. I think any team in that scenario would have done the same thing.
Yeah, no, I think it's smart. I mean, I'm not mad at the Nats at all for doing that, but I do find that kind of stuff interesting. It broke on early Wednesday afternoon that the Nats were calling up Ford, but the official transaction did not happen until Friday afternoon. And so, you think about, well, why might that be? And I think service time absolutely was the reason. The other Nationals player to homer in this game, Daylen Lile, he was the Nats starting left fielder and number 7 batter, 2 for 4 with a 3-run homer and an RBI single. Lile in the Nats 5-run ninth had a went-out 3-run homer to center field for a 23-2 Nats lead. That homer going projected 412 feet per Statcast, did come off an Athletics position player and outfielder Carlos Cortez, who was the Athletics starting DH and number one batter in this game, and then pitched for the A's in this game. The game got wonky in that ninth inning for sure. Also, Curtis Mead. So you mentioned your favorite stat of the night. I'm going to give you mine. Curtis Mead as an starting third baseman and number two batter, 4 for 6 with a 2-run double, an RBI double, another double, and a single. Know this about Curtis Mead, and we all know that he's having this stunningly great offensive season. He now has an OPS of 865, 1 point better than C.J. Abrams. Both Curtis Mead and Luis Garcia Jr. now have OPSs better than that of Abrams. And that's not a shot at Abrams. He's still doing well, but we've seen this rise of Garcia, and there has been this rise of Curtis Mead, an 865 OPS now. Garcia is at 871. Abrams is mentioned at 864. But Curtis Mead has been remarkable with how good he has been. 3 doubles in this game on Friday night.
And I know it sounds silly to talk about in a blowout game where he scored 23 runs, but he's been so clutch. And that first one, the first double in the third inning that got their first 2 runs home was a big 2-out clutch 2 RBI double. And it came on the 9th pitch of an at-bat, just a fantastic at-bat from him. It's the kind of thing we've seen him do consistently for them all year long. And he deserves to be mentioned with those best hitters on the team. He has earned the right to be included like that because he has produced at that level. And it's great to see that continue. You know, we keep wondering, okay, have we already seen the best of Curtis Mead? Is there any way he could keep this up? Is he actually a part of their long-term plan now? I don't necessarily know the answer to all that, but you keep throwing him out there and keep giving him these opportunities, and he keeps delivering for them. And it was really nice in this case to see that he did this in front of his parents. Traveled all the way from Australia to see him on the West Coast. Obviously a little easier to get there than to come all the way back east. And did you catch his dad's T-shirt? His mom's wearing a Nationals T-shirt. His dad is wearing the Durham Bulls Bunch of Lollygaggers T-shirt, the quote straight from the movie. I absolutely love that. That tells you all you need to know about Curtis. And I can see where he gets it from his father and his family. The Aussies know how to have fun. And the fact that he's watching his son play in the big leagues, not wearing his son's jersey, not even wearing Nationals gear, wearing a Durham Bulls Bunch of Lollygaggers T-shirt. Absolutely love that.
That was funny to see that for sure. Great T-shirt selection by Papa Mead right there, and great offensive output by the Nats. I don't know to what extent records are kept for best offensive showing on a road trip, but you wonder if we might have that with what the Nats are going to be doing here. Again, 3 games at the lowly Athletics, followed by 3 games at the lowly Rockies, 2 Hitters Havens in Sutter Health Park and Coors Field. Again, we assume nothing, but boy, it's hard not to be pumped about what the Nats could be doing offensively over the course of this road trip.
1-0 Walton. Here's the pitch. Swing a line drive right field. Cruz dives, backhanded try, and he makes the catch, saving a run. That one a sinking line drive. Cruz hesitated, was frozen in place, then dove straight in and makes a fine backhand grab to keep the A's off the board. That was a tough play, and Cruz made it to end the inning.
So the Nats starting pitcher in this 23-4 win at the Athletics late night on Friday night was Cade Cavalli, who pitched the Nats' final game before the All-Star break and now has pitched in the Nats' first game after the All-Star break. And he was good again. Cavalli on Friday night, 2 runs in 6 innings, 9 strikeouts, no walks, gave up 4 hits, which were a home run and 3 singles, threw a ton of strikes, 95 pitches, 63 strikes, just 32 balls. It's easy for this to get buried, understandably so, with how good the Nats' offense was in this game. But Cavalli doing well in that 5-3 loss to the New York Yankees at Nationals Park last Sunday afternoon. 2 runs, 6 innings, 5 strikeouts, 1 walk. Coming right back here, and the following Friday night pitching really well at the Athletics and just continuing to have this big-time step-forward season that he's authoring right now.
Yeah, it gets overlooked because of what the offense did, but I actually think this was a really important start for him. He had the great outing and the very eventful outing in Boston, probably the best start of his career. Then he struggles with the dehydration and a short start against the Pirates. And then he was effective against the Yankees, but he didn't really look like the best version of himself, I thought, in that game. Now, he actually ends up, because of the All-Star break, starting back-to-back games for the team. Started the first half finale and then starts the second half opener on full rest because of the break. He looked more like the Boston version of himself. His fastball had life to it. He was throwing 98. And the thing I loved about this, 9 strikeouts and 0 walks. This is the third time this year he's had a start of at least 9 strikeouts without walking anybody. That's Max Scherzer kind of stuff. And I think this gets overlooked at times. Cade Cavalli is a strike thrower. He typically does not get into trouble walking the bases loaded, racking up a high pitch count because he has these long at-bats because he keeps falling behind in the count. His first 10 pitches in this game were all strikes. This was another good sign of him now getting into a rhythm and flashing both the ace quality stuff, but more than that, the command and the ability to just either blow him away with striking him out or make them earn their way on with hits. Don't help him out at all with walks. If he could keep that going, that's ace level stuff if he could keep doing that.
Cavalli now 21 games, all starts, ERA 3.78, whip 131. He has 119 strikeouts versus 32 walks, 119 strikeouts in 104 2/3 innings, good for a strikeouts per 9 innings of 10.23. In terms of what the Nats have done with the starting pitching rotation coming out of the break, so Cavalli gets the game 1 assignment. Nats are going Zach Littell in game 2. And then Foster Griffin in game 3. We talked about the need for the Nats to split up the 2 opener starting pitchers in terms of guys for whom the Nats have been using openers in Littell and Miles Michaelis, and Nats pretty clearly are doing that. But in terms of not going with Foster Griffin in game 1 of this series, with Griffin having been the Nats' best starting pitcher this season, I'm assuming that's just a byproduct of him having pitched in the All-Star game on Tuesday night. Having pitched well, by the way, a perfect top of the 5th, 2 swinging strikeouts. He only threw 10 pitches. I did wonder if maybe Griffin would be good to go for Friday, but I guess the Nats thought better of it and are going with him on Sunday.
Yeah, I think that they probably planned this out as soon as the first half ended, knowing once he was selected to the All-Star game, they said, okay, it actually timed out really well for him because that Tuesday game in Philadelphia, I know it was only 10 pitches, 1 inning, but that was his start day. It was 5 days. And now pitching on Sunday, that's, again, 5 days, his start day. Why mess with the formula, the routine? Might as well do that. It would be nice to have Cavalli and Griffin going back-to-back, but I don't think that's the end of the world to not have that. And then, as you said, yes, you want Littell and Michaelis to be split up. They haven't announced the plans beyond this weekend, but I would assume that we're going to see Andrew Alvarez on Monday in Colorado. And then Michaelis, who, remember, is still currently serving his suspension. It was 1 game before the break, 4 games coming out of the break, makes him eligible for game 5, which will be Tuesday in Colorado. I believe that will be his start. And so the 5 in their order coming out of the break will end up being Cavalli, Littell, Griffin, Alvarez, and Michaelis. That would be my expectation for how this will go.
The Nats relief pitching in this 23-4 win at the Athletics late night on Friday night. So we had 1 Nats relief pitcher and 1 Nats position player pitching. We had Riley Cornelio tossing 2 scoreless innings with 5 swinging strikeouts versus 1 walk. He did give up a double in each inning and did throw a lot of pitches, 47 pitches, but he threw a lot of strikes, 32 strikes, 15 balls. And then we had playtime with Nats third baseman / second baseman Jorbeat Bibas. He allowed 2 runs, 1 earned, bottom of the 9th. I do want to focus, though, on Cornelio. So look, it hasn't always been pleasant when he has pitched. But the guy can strike people out. The guy has real stuff. And what he did in this outing, 2 shutout innings, 5 swinging strikeouts, 1 walk. Good to see that from Riley Cornelio. Like, that's what he can be for this team at the major league level right now.
And what you saw in those strikeouts were some fastballs that were 98. He maybe even hit 99 at one point, and a slider that breaks a mile. It's just all about command with him. If he can keep it in or near the strike zone, he can have a lot of success and get a lot of swings and misses. Now, the key for him is going to be two things. Number one, the pitch count. You know, you put him in there hoping he goes 3 innings and closes out the game, but he throws 47 pitches in 2 innings, and you don't want to push him further than that. And that's why Bibas pitches the 9th. So you'd like to see a little bit more efficient. And I know he was throwing strikes, but it's still some long at-bats there. And then the second part, this is obviously as low of a low leverage situation as you can get. Can he start to have some success in those spots? And then do you start to ease him into more high leverage situations? Remember his major league debut against the White Sox, thrown to the Wolves in a tie game in the 7th inning, did not go well. This is the way you would rather do it, low leverage. But if he has some success, can he find that as well in some medium leverage spots and eventually maybe even high leverage spots? If you can get to that point, fantastic. It's a good start for him. His last couple outings have been a lot better. Definitely like the swing and miss stuff. He clearly has it when he locates it.
All right, one more item. So I mentioned that there was a good bit of Nats news in recent days during the All-Star break. Something that was especially notable, the Nats on Thursday afternoon announced having traded outfielder Robert Hassell III to the Pittsburgh Pirates in exchange for cash considerations or a player to be named later. So just to take you through the mechanics of what happened here, the Nats on Sunday morning, July 5th, announced having designated Hassell for assignment. Then we this past Sunday afternoon, July 12th, learned that Hassell surprisingly had cleared waivers and had been assigned outright to AAA Rochester. So it sounded like maybe / likely Hassell was staying with the organization. You never can be 100% sure in a circumstance like this, but it sure sounded that way with how the Nats phrased things on Sunday afternoon. And then it comes out on Thursday afternoon that the Nats have traded Hassell to the Pirates for, again, cash considerations or a player to be named later. Now, we talked about what happened with Hassell when the Nats DFA'd him back on July 5th. So this guy was a very promising prospect, one of the 6 guys who the Nats got in the Juan Soto trade back in August 2022, underperformed at the major league level last season, underperformed for AAA Rochester this season. I think there's so much here that's interesting, but I guess the 2 things I want to hone in on in terms of things we haven't yet discussed. A, the fact that he cleared waivers. I mean, I still find that really surprising that no other team claimed him. And so if you were wondering, like, why would the Nats have DFA'd him? No other team claimed him. I think that says so much about where his stock is at. But then for the Nats to trade him to the Pirates for basically nothing. I mean, you can't be traded for less than what this guy just got traded for, right? Cash considerations or a player to be named later. Why do you think the Nats did that as opposed to holding on to Hassell and trying to see if there might be anything there?
I think it was clear, and this goes back to when they DFA'd him, that they did not see a viable path forward in this organization for him, given what they now have at the big league level in the outfield and also what they still have in the minor leagues in the outfield. And they didn't see any scenario in which he was going to make his way up. Now you could say, well, why not keep him as AAA depth? They do have some outfield depth there and more coming up behind him. And I think it was clear in their minds that he just wasn't going to be a part of this. Now, you ask, why did the Pirates do it this way? Why didn't they claim him or even make the trade offer while he was in that DFA limbo? And there's a key distinction here. If they had claimed him or if they had worked out a trade during that DFA window, he would have been on their 40-man roster. He could have been in the minors, but he would have taken up a spot on their 40-man. Once he cleared waivers, he was outrighted to AAA. He's off the 40-man roster, and now he's just a minor league player. And so you make that trade now, and the Pirates are saying, okay, we're going to take you. We're probably going to send you to AAA, but you're not on our 40-man roster. There's no harm, no risk on their part. Maybe he rediscovers something and eventually they decide, hey, we're going to actually add him back and call him up. But if he doesn't ever do that, it doesn't really cost them much and doesn't take up a roster spot. So that's the key distinction there of why the trade didn't actually happen until everything else previously. But I think it's clear that the Nationals, this front office, saw him, saw what he had done and said, we don't see him being a part of this moving forward. And we don't really find value in like waiting it out with him at AAA, because if we have a need for an outfielder, we've got other options and we just don't see him being a part of that.
Remarkable how much his stock has fallen. The man known as Bobby Barrels, the man who Mike Rizzo at one point called the forgotten prospect. Well, Hassell now has been forgotten by the Nats, now is gone from the organization. Hit us up on X at Nats_chat. Hit us up on Blue Sky at Nats Chat Podcast. We do shout outs on the Nats Chat Podcast. If you would like for us to shout out to someone who you care about, a happy birthday, a congratulations, a get well soon, a happy anniversary, contact the man who runs his podcast, Tim Shovers. The email address is natschatpodcast@gmail.com. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat are courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat Podcast.
Breaking ball, that's a line to center field for a hit. Wood trots home. Victor Estevez waves around Mead, and the ball mishandled in center by Bolte. 2 runs come in, and Chaparro ends up at second base on the error by Bolte. The Boo Birds are out in West Sacramento. 12-2 Nationals.